Welcome back to another reading and correcting of Bottom Rung. With me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes. And Ty. I almost forgot him. Almost forgot the supervisor. Today, we are doing chapter 36. There we are. The Long in the Tooth Tavern was nearly empty, something Tibs had never known it to be since it had opened. As Runner died, how full the tavern was wrong. The Long in the Tooth Tavern was nearly empty. Something Tibbs had never known it to be since it had opened. Okay, you know what? Semicolon. This is since it had opened. As Runner died, half of the tavern was diminished. But it was the first and most popular tavern in town in Craggle Rock. The few people Tibbs immediately noticed were townsfolk. A few merchants and someone had on the bar tankard tipped over. He realized the cleric might not be here. He might have left not long after the man had seen him. He'd be somewhere on the field, being snatched by another team. But if he'd been wallowing, maybe he'd been too withdrawn to notice everyone leaving. If not, well, a second fighter would be a good fit, so long as they could take Jekyll's orders. He missed the man sitting at the furthest table from the door twice. He'd been looking for a white robe like that of Paul. Like Paul wore. Something similar to the sorcerer's, but made of a heavier material and with a hood that Paul hadn't lifted. The man's robe were black, and he had the hood over his head, creating shadows that entirely hid his features. Tibbs headed for for his table. For that table. Tibbs headed for that table. Are you a cleric? He asked, standing opposite from the man. Other than the color, he looked like what Tibbs imagined a cleric would. Go away, the man said without looking up. If you're a cleric, I said, the man cut him off angrily, raising his head. Go, he stuttered, and his black eyes went wide, looking at Tibbs. He sighed. Kid, whoever put you up to this, it isn't funny. The man's eyes weren't that so pale color Paul's eye had been. This was more like Bardic's eyes. Maybe he wasn't a cleric's, Tib wondered. Only one way to know for sure. Are you a cleric? The man sighed and took a long swallow from the tankard. Yes, I am. He glared at Tibbs. Are you happy now? Tibbs sat, grinning. Do you want to be on our team? The man stared at him, then looked around the inn, searching. They're coming, Tibbs said. I ran. I wanted to make sure I was the first to ask you. The first? The man chuckled bitterly. He'll think you're the first person to ask me? I went around and offered my service, and everyone laughed at me. You're the only one to ask, and I'm guessing whoever sent you running for me didn't tell you anything about me. He said you were moping. The man opened his mouth, looked at the tankard, then sighed. You're a clerk. I need you to heal. The man sighed. Of course you do. I'm not that kind of cleric, kid. My name's Tibbs. Isn't there just one kind of cleric? That's just what those purity assholes want you to think. Holy... Okay. I need to redo the entirety of Commodore's dialogue. I I changed who the... I changed is... oh, wow. This is going to be interesting. Commodore becomes more sophisticated, less direct as I wrote him. And I'm realizing here that as sulking as he is, there's like the sophistication is not an act. It is who he is. Which means I need to really need to really go over his dialogue here. I mean, I need to be direct. Like he's not in a good place, but it can't be the common parlance I have him here. Like, he uses bigger words. Not to the level of well, actually, yes, a bit of obfuscation, but it's again, it's not airs that he's putting on, it's the way he talks. So this, leave me alone, the man said without looking up. If you're a cleric, I said, the man cut him off angrily. Leave. He stuttered and his black eyes went wide, looking at Tibs. He sighed. Kid is not a word he would use. Child, whoever put you up to this? Another thing that he does not use, he does not abbreviate. He does not like it. Um, Child, whoever put you up to this? This is not amusing. Things you realize when you, after working on a character for nearly 2 books now. The man's eyes weren't that so pale color. Paul's eyes had been. This was more like Bardic's eyes. Maybe he wasn't a cleric, Tibbs wondered. Only one way to find out. Are you a cleric? The man sighed and took a long soda from his tankard. Yes, I am. He glared at Tibbs. Are you happy now? Are you pleased? Are you pleased? Tibbs sat, grinning. Do you want to be on our team? The man stared at him, then looked around the inn, searching. They're coming, Tibbs said. I ran. I wanted to make sure I was the first to ask you. The first? The man chuckled bitterly. You believe you are the first person to ask me? I circulated and offered my services. Everyone laughed at me. You are the only one to ask. I expect that whoever sent you running for me did not tell you anything about me. He said you were moping. The man opened his mouth, looked at the tankard, then sighed. You're a cleric. I need you to. The man sighed. Of course you do. I am not that kind of cleric, child. My name's Tibs. Isn't there just one kind of cleric? That is simply what those purity... Yeah. Oh. You know what? That's simply what those purity... He paused, searching. Assholes want you to believe. The door slammed open and Maz entered, carrying most of Jackal's weight. That's them, Tibbs exclaimed. He ran to them. What happened? Just tired, Jackal said, his face pale. You shouldn't have run off, Tibbs, Karina said angrily. We're a team. But I had to make sure we got the cleric. This way to Dibble. He's right there. And no one asked him to be on their team yet. She looked, and her face darkened. That's not a cleric. He said he was, Tibbs replied. The man headed toward them, looking concerned. He lied, she snapped, glaring at the man. I did not. The man looked at Jekyll. What has happened to you? He placed a hand on his forehead and frowned. Had some jackass sorcerer do something to my hand. Jekyll tried to raise it, but his face twisted in pain. Always thought I was tougher than this. The man took Jekyll to the closest chair. You have a fever. You are feverish. He took the hand in his, and Jekyll cried out. The old walrus, actually, Old Walrus stepped from behind the bar, but Tibbs shook his head. The man frowned, took another step, but Tibbs glared at him. Then, and with a shrug, he returned to the bar. This is corruption, the man said. Like that's hard to tell, Kirino said mockingly. You say a sorcerer did this. Caused this. His name's Dawn, Tibbs said. He's an asshole. The man looked at Kirina. That does tend to be a common trait. Yes. He studied the hand again. I am able to help you with this. Bullshit, Kirina exclaimed. You can't heal. Tibbs stared at her. The only time she used that kind of language was when she was being ignored. Oh, right, you. How correct you are. How correct you are, the man said, annoyed. But it is... But it is like one of your kind. But your kind would think. But your kind would think healing is the only way to fix something. That's a line I gotta walk here. I can help you, but as she is so eager to point out, it is not healing. It will allow you to get better to heal on your own. How much? Jekyll asked. The man thought it over. The child is already paid. I didn't give you any coin, Tibs said, checking his pouch in case the man had taken them when he wasn't looking. He chuckled. Friendliness and honesty. That's how you paid me. I'm also doing this to show your snooty. I'm gonna need a synonym for that. Ooh, I like this. Elitist. You're elitist of a sorceress. That a cure does not always come in the form of healing. Karina protested, but Jackal spoke over her. If I'm not spending coins, I'm taking the help. Karina sat, glaring at the cleric. And the man. Robed man. Closed both hands over Jackal's and closed his eyes. Placed. Both hands over Jackal's and closed his eyes. He took a breath, and as he released it, Jackal tensed, then strung more curses after one another than Tibs had ever heard him say. What did you do? Kirino demanded, standing again, hair whipping around her. Jekyll was slumped against Maz. against Maz, breathing heavily. Tibs sensed Karina's essence and wondered if he could disrupt it if she attacked the man. He could disrupt it if she attacked the man. He wouldn't have to worry about her fighting against it. She wouldn't know it was possible at this point. Even if the cleric wasn't officially a runner, Harry had said he didn't want any crimes in the town. The man sat in his chair, looking tired. I did what my element requires of me. That's bullshit, she replied. The elements don't require anything of us. It does not. No, they do not require of you, he said with disdain. You are only a sorceress. You, she raised a hand and the essence formed a construct there. Tibs focused on it. Enough, Jekyll said, not looking great, but sounding better. Karina, no fighting in town. You know that. He, she glared at the man in the black robe. Again. She glared at this one. Yeah, she can probably get away with this. She glared at the man. Helped. Jekyll winced as he stretched. What did you do? I ended the corruption that sorcerer put in you. Placed. Killed it, for all intent and purposes. Emotion to Old Walrus. Your essence is about killing? Tibs asked, wondering if Karina might not be right. Darkness is about hiding. He thought about something else. Wait, no. That's Tib. Darkness is about hiding. He thought about something else. It's about secrets. The man inclined his head to Tibs as the barman placed the tankard on the table. The cleric took a copper coin from somewhere within his robe, and Tibs heard the tinkle of many coins. For you, thieves. Rogue, Tibs said. Criminals are thieves, runners are rogues. The man took a sip of his drink. Understood. For you, rogues, archers, fighters, and sorceresses, the elements are simply what their essence is. You manipulate that and nothing more. For us, clerics, Karina sorted derisively. All right. Karina sorted derisively. We reach deeper into the truth of the element. A fighter of purity cannot do what that same element's cleric can. Oh, they can heal somewhat, but the results are closer to what I did than what a purity cleric does. They boost what the body can do. The cleric makes it right. To do that, they have to reach deep within the element, to give themselves over entirely to it. Jekyll slowly closed and opened his hand, wincing, but he was regaining a proper color. I'm just happy you did what you did. I didn't, or didn't you have a choice, with the element demanding that you kill things? Don't indulge him. I'm better because of him. Sorry, don't indulge him, Karina said. I'm better because of him. Jekyll replied. This is replied. I'm going to have to change the other one. Replied, so I'd like to know a little more about him. You're better, so let's go see Krosef, she said. He's going to worry. Jekyll studied her. He's going to worry less if I'm better when he sees me, so we have the time. I am not sure I have enough ale. I doubt I have enough ale to go through that, to have that discussion. the man said, chuckling. Jekyll motioned to the barkeep. Walrus, round for everyone at this table and keep bringing them. We'll be here a while, I think. The cleric looked thoughtful until they each had a tankard. Reluctantly, Kirina sat with them. When I say that we give ourselves over to the element, that does not mean we lose our will. Our identity. I still decide what I do. But darkness, my element, demands that I make use of it. That I. Oh, wow. Ah. Oh. That stayed from the original version when darkness used to be about death, but that got changed. I smiled. Ah. Smiled. Eh. That I. That. He smiled, and what Tibs thought was mischievousness, used. I use death. Oh! Mez exclaimed. You make the undead. The undead! No. And this is going to be applied because now he's been caught in his own. Not well. He's been caught in his own lie. So yeah, you know what? I know. Yeah, this is because yeah. Okay. He sighed. I took away what made the corruption what it is. Okay. I took away what made the corruption what it is. He shrugged. So I killed it. You are correct. He asked. I do not kill. That's right. Jekyll said, she's Karina. I'm Jackal, that's Tibs, and this is... He paused. You heard how teams have to operate now, Mez. I'm afraid you need to decide if you're in or out before we tackle the entry fee. The archer let out a breath. I'm in. You got that. You got that standing up to Dawn for me. You didn't have to, Jack, so I doubt many would have. And yes, Tib, I'm worth it. Tibbs patted Jekyll's arm before the fighter could speak. You're back to being the dumb one on the team. When did I stop being it? Jekyll asked, staring at Mez. Are you trying to steal my spot? And to be clear, Dawn did this to me because I'm an idiot. Also, it's Jackal, nothing else. Welcome to the team. He turned to the cleric. Go on? The man looked from one to the other. Think of them as brothers, Karina said, then stiffened, as if realizing she shouldn't have spoken to him. The man nodded and smiled. Seeing how you have given me your names, I feel indebted to do the same in return. I am Commodore of Temerity. Of course you take that name, Kirino scoffed, and here I was starting to think you might be decent. What am I missing? Jekyll asked. About this little exchange, we don't have to go over the entirety of what I miss. The Temerity family are among the most prestigious purity family. Who's saying? Though it makes sense, someone like him. Okay, alright. Karina said... So it makes sense someone like him would do everything he can to pass himself off as one of them. Isn't that narrow-minded of you? Mez asked, and she glared at her. Come on, how many kingdoms are there? Why would you automatically doubt his honor? Do you really believe there's only one family by the name of Temerity? Just in the city I'm from, I know of 3 other with Dollywad as their family name, and we aren't. He's sort of ranting a little bit. We aren't related even distantly. I make no claim of being of that Temerity family, Commodore said. It took a long swallow. Kirino turned red and looked into her tankard. Jekyll leaned to whisper something to Mez, and Tibbs was distracted by the smile Commodore had. When he noticed Tibbs watching, the cleric winked at him, then composed his face into something serious. So you kill stuff, Jekyll said. I can see that being an asset in the dungeon. How are you against... Excuse me, a man said loudly, approaching the table. You are Tibbs' team, correct? He wore clean, undamaged clothing in vibrant green and gold, and stood straight, as if someone had tied a staff to his back. I'm on the team, Tibbs answered. The man glanced at Tibbs and immediately dismissed him to look at Karina. I am told this team was the first to kill the floor boss. She looked at Jackal and Tibbs, both of whom shrugged. So she shrugged too. If they say that, sure. The man looked put upon. Are you, or are you not that team? My lady is ready to pay handsomely for the detail of how you did it. How much? Jekyll asked. Jackal, Tibbs warned. They had rules. I'm just curious how much the information is going for. The man looked at Karina, who raised an eyebrow. 2 electrum pieces, he said. Per team member? Jekyll asked. Okay, I'm impressed. Don't be ridiculous. Don't be ridiculous. It's for the information. Why would she pay each of you when she only needs one of you to talk? Oh, well, in that case, no deal. The man glared at Jackal and waited. When nothing happened, he looked at Kierna. Will you let this man speak for you, milady? Tibbs had never heard man used with as an insult before. Even at his angriest, Krosef didn't call Jackal in that way. Kierna stared at the noble, looking stunned. When he kept looking at her, she sighed and stood. She straightened her robe, and suddenly she looked the man's equal instead of being another runner like them. That man, as you put so well, happens to be my team leader. Jekyll choked on his ale. So you have your answer. Milady, you cannot be serious. Not only is he a man, he's clearly a commoner. Kirina sighed and raised a hand, hair whipping around it. There was hardly any essence there, Tibbs could see. Keep insulting my team leader, and I'm going to whirlwind you out of this building so hard you're going to break the door. The man took a step back. You don't understand the opportunity you are missing. My lady Cabrera is, with a whelp, he ran off as Kirina pointed at him. What was that? As asked. I believe he is and as a Marian. Believe he is an Amazamarian. Yeah. Commodore said. They have a rigid caste system with women in charge. I am curious as to why you didn't negotiate a higher price. You did not negotiate a higher price. If the offer was too low, they clearly have wealth. There's a rule against talking about the dungeon outside of it, as said, then looked at Jekyll. Maybe the rule isn't in place anymore, and that's why he's asking. 2 electrons is a lot of money, especially for those of us who haven't had a chance to hold any. If the rule isn't there anymore, Jekyll said, Hard Knuckles would have said so. Let some other team take the risk. I'm just happy that when they asked, they heard we were the first. Told you you wouldn't matter if what other stories were told, Kirina said. Jekyll nodded. Never doubted you. She rolled her eyes. With that little distraction dealt with, I'd like to resolve the issue of you, Commodore. The man nodded. Let me assuage your concerns. You have given me your names. I have given you mine. Forgiving initial preconceptions, you have treated me in a way that I have not been accustomed to in a long time. How? Tibbs asked, surprised at the claim. He couldn't see how they treated him any differently than they did anyone else who didn't cause them trouble first. By treating me like a person instead of some thing. And a thing no one approves of. Top that. He looked at Kirina. If you will have me, I will be part of this team. She squirmed. I really should be the one apologizing for how I treated you. I am sorry. I've been raised with the understanding clerics were something of purity, that anyone else claiming to be one, or that anyone else claiming to be one is just swindling, just a swindler. Looking to take coins from honest worker. That's the guild, Jekyll said. I shouldn't have jumped to any conclusion, Kirina said, glaring at the fighter, and especially that just because you are from a family named Temerity, you were claiming to be from that family. You joining isn't something one person should decide, but I'm okay with you being on the team. Oh, good, Jekyll said in relief. I was afraid you were serious with this I'm in charge bullshit. I vote for you to be in too. What are you talking about? Maz asked. You are the leader. You're in. No, I'm not. You're in. Tib said, grinning at Commodore. Our team leader wanted you on the team from the start. I did not! Tibbs, you're in charge. Please! You and Karina are the smart ones. You two lead. I'm just a dumb fighter. Sure, I can do that, Karina said, and Tibbs stared at her suspiciously. You're going to be ordering us again in under an hour. I can hold that out for that long. How about you, Tibbs? You looked at Jekyll, glaring at Karina. I'm staying out of this. He put his hand over his mouth for emphasis. Jekyll groaned. So, Karina said, adopting the same regal bearing she had with the noble, I believe Jekyll had asked something about how you'd perform. Ah. All right. I believe Jekyll had asked something about how you'd perform something before we were interrupted. I'm afraid I have no idea what he could have been referring to, since he was speaking out of turn, seeing as I'm the leader and not him. Wait, that means I can go and find that servant and actually say yes to the deal. She stood, but Jekyll grabbed her arm, wincing only a little at the motion. You're enjoying the position too much. Nothing good ever comes from a leader who enjoys ordering people about. Oh, so you're perfect for it. She smiled. Tibbs doesn't want it either. Everyone treats me like a kid. Well, listen to what I say. Jekyll and Karina looked at one another before either one could speak. Commodore asked a question. How old are you, Tibbs? Tibbs narrowed his eyes at the cleric. Old enough to survive the dungeon? How old are you? The man looked at the four of them, a smile for him. I am so much older than any of you. And this concludes chapter 36 of Bottom Rung. If you are enjoying this, please subscribe, hit the bell, share, hit the thumbs up, tell your friends, tell the world. If you want to read the full story, before the corrections I'm doing now, it's on Royal Road. The link is in the notes. If you want to support me, there's also a link to my Patreon. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.